Lakers Nation, something is happening right now in the NBA trade market that could completely alter the trajectory of this franchise's championship aspiration. I've been analyzing salary cap scenarios, studying trade possibilities, and connecting information that reveals a massive tension between what we want and what we can actually achieve for the trade deadline. Welcome to Lakers News Fan Report, your most trusted destination for breaking updates, insider analysis, and authentic Lakers perspective. This is where you'll get the latest news, credible insights, and real talk about every decision impacting our pursuit of Banner 18. You need to stay locked in through this entire video because what I'm about to break down will fundamentally change the trade deadline strategy and what's realistically achievable for this franchise moving forward. Let me establish where we are as a franchise right now, because understanding our current situation is absolutely critical to comprehending the decisions being made in the coming week. The Lakers are in a fascinating but precarious position in 2026. We have LeBron James still performing at elite level despite his defying father time in ways we've never seen before in basketball. The man is averaging numbers that players 10 years younger would be proud of, and he's doing it while playing winning basketball and elevating everyone around him. We have Austin Reeves, who's developed into a legitimate two-way contributor and one of the best value contracts in the entire league, a player who can create his own shot, make plays for others, and defend multiple positions when needed. But here's the reality that keeps me up at night and should concern every Lakers fan who's paying attention. Our defense is simply not good enough to win a championship. We can score with anybody in the league when we're clicking offensively. The chemistry between our core players creates offensive opportunities that most teams would kill for. When our offense is humming, we look like a team that can beat anyone on any given night. But defense wins champions, and right now, we're not stopping enough teams when it matters most. The numbers don't lie. Our defensive rating puts us firmly in the middle of the pack, and that's championship titles in June by being mediocre defensively from October. The trade deadline approaching fast, and the Lakers front office been incredibly active, exploring every possible avenue to improve this roster before we head into the crucial stretch playoff. The names that have been circulating in trade discussions are absolutely elite-level talent that would change the entire complexion of this team. We're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the most dominant two-way forces in basketball and a multiple-time MVP who would instantly make us title favorite. We're talking about Lauri Markkanen, a 7-footer who can shoot from anywhere on the court and create matchup nightmares that defenses simply can't solve. We're talking about players who could immediately elevate this team from fringe contender to legitimate championship favorite status. And then there's Trey Murphy III from the New Orleans Pelicans. And this is where things get really interesting for what the Lakers are trying to build. Murphy represents exactly the type of player that could transform the Lakers' defensive identity while fitting seamlessly into our offensive system without requiring major. At 6'9", 7'2" wingspan, Murphy is the prototypical modern NBA wing defender that every championship team needs. He can guard multiple positions effectively. He's got the size and athleticism to switch onto virtually anyone point forward. And he brings the kind of defensive versatility championship teams are built around in today's NBA. Let me break down in detail why Trey Murphy III is so intriguing for what the Lakers are trying to accomplish, both short-term and long-term. Murphy is shooting 39% from three-point range over his career, which means he's not just a defensive specialist who clogs spacing on offense and makes life harder for his teammate. He's a legitimate floor spacer who would give our offense even more room to operate and create easier scoring opportunities for everyone. Imagine Murphy stationed in the corner while LeBron attacks the basket with a full head of steam, or spotting up while Reeves penetrates kick. The gravity he provides a shooting threat everyone else's job easier and creates kind of spacing elite offense acquired. Murphy's shooting isn't just volume, it's efficient volume. He takes smart, he doesn't force anything, and he's improved his decision-making every single season he's been in the league. Last season, he averaged over 38% from deep on high volume, which puts him in elite company among wing players. When you combine that shooting with his defensive prowess, you're looking at exactly the kind of 3-and-D wing that championship teams pay premium price to acquire. But it's on the defensive end where Murphy would truly make his most significant impact felt on this Lakers. The Lakers desperately need someone who can guard the elite wings in the Western Conference night after night. We need someone who can take on the primary assignment against Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and the other premier scorers will inevitably face in the playoffs. Murphy has shown the ability to do exactly that at a high level. His length disrupts passing lanes and forces difficulty. His lateral quickness allows him to stay in front of quick guards without getting burned. And his basketball IQ means he's almost always in the right position to help or recover. Murphy's defensive metrics are impressive. The eye. He ranks in the percentile defensive win shares and wings. His opponent field goal percentage when he's the primary defender, excellent, and coaches consistently praise effort level and attention to detail on that end. This isn't a guy who coasts on defense to save energy. He takes pride in his defensive work and understands that's where his value comes from at the NBA level. Murphy's age profile is also perfect for what we need both immediately and for the future. At just 25 years old, he's entering his prime years as a basketball player. He's past the developmental stage where you're hoping for growth and improvement, but he's not at the veteran tail end where you're worried about physical decline or diminishing turn. If we acquire Murphy, we're getting him for what should be his basketball over the next 5-6 years, and potentially signing him to an extension that covers multiple years of elite production that would take us beyond the LeBron era. Scheme fit perspective, Murphy would integrate into our system immediately without requiring any adjustments or learning. He doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective, which is crucial when you're playing alongside ball-dominant players who need touches to be at their best. He thrives in catch-and-shoot situations where he can use his quick release. He cuts intelligently off the ball to create easy scoring opportunities, willing to do all the dirty work on defense that doesn't always show up in the box but wins game in March and April. Those are exactly the traits you need in a complementary piece on a championship team built around established stars. Murphy's playoff experience, while limited, has been positive. He's shown he can perform under pressure, his shooting percentages don't drop significantly in bigger games, and he doesn't shrink from the moment. That matters tremendously when you're evaluating whether a player can contribute to a championship run. We've all seen talented regular season players disappear when the lights get brighter and the competition gets tougher. Murphy doesn't appear to be that player based on what we've seen so far. The Pelicans situation makes Murphy potentially available, which is why his name keeps surfacing in trade discussions around the league. New Orleans is going through its own roster evaluation process, trying to figure out the best path forward with their core pieces. They've got Zion Williamson when healthy, though his availability has been a constant question mark. They've got Brandon Ingram on an expiring contract, extension questions looming. They're trying to build a sustainable winner in a small market, but they're also facing significant financial constraints, difficult decisions about which players fit their long-term timeline and which ones might be expendable. Murphy is entering the final year before restricted free agency, which complicates his value. The Pelicans have to decide whether they're willing to pay him market value on his next contract or whether it makes more sense to trade him now. They can still get significant value in return. That's the kind of situation the Lakers have historically exploited, stepping in when teams are facing tough financial decisions and offering packages that make sense for both sides. For the Lakers to acquire Murphy, we'd need to put together a package that satisfies New Orleans' needs while not completely gutting our own depth and future flexibility. That's where things get extremely complicated from a practice standpoint. The Pelicans aren't going to give away a 25-year-old wing who can shoot, defend at an elite level, unless they're getting significant value in return that helps their team either now or in the future. They're going to want young players, they're going to want draft them reload, and they're going to want salary that works within them and doesn't create long. The most realistic package would probably center around multiple role rotation plus we'd likely need to include at least one or two rotation players that the Pelicans value and can slot into their system, probably multiple second-round picks sweeten the deal, and potentially future first-round pick. We can make the salary math work under the collective bargaining agreement. That's an undeniably steep price for any player, but for someone of Murphy's caliber who fits our timeline perfectly and addresses addresses our biggest need. It might be worth paying if it puts us over the top. But here's where the situation gets really complicated and frustrating, and this is the part that's been eating at me as I've studied our cap situation and explored realistic trade possibilities. The Lakers' financial flex is extremely limited due to years, aggressive moves, and big con. We're operating significantly above the luxury tax, which means every dollar matters from an ownership perspective. We're restricted by the second apron rules and the collective bargaining agreement in terms of what types of trades we can legally make. And we're competing against other teams who also recognize Murphy's value and might be able to put together more attractive packages with better pick and younger players. The salary matching requirements alone create massive complication. To acquire Murphy's roughly $14 million salary, we'd need to send out between $11 and $17 million in salary to make it work under the CBA. That means including multiple players starts gutting our rotation depth. And if we include players that other teams actually want, we're potentially weakening ourselves in other areas just to strengthen one position. It's a delicate balancing act that requires tremendous skill and creativity to pull off success. The harsh reality that Lakers fans need to accept is that acquiring Trey Murphy might be nothing more than a pipe dream given our constraint. The price tag, both in terms of assets we'd need to give up and the luxury tax implications that would affect ownership's willingness to spend, might simply be too high for what we can realistically afford in our current situation. The competition from other teams with better trade assets makes it even harder, and that's where the Lakers front office has been forced to pivot and consider more affordable alternatives that can still address our defensive needs without breaking the bank or mortgaging our entire future. Enter Keon Ellis from the Sacramento Kings, a name that's been gaining traction in trade discussions over the past. Ellis is making only $2.3 million in the final year of his contract, which from a salary matching perspective makes him infinitely easier to acquire than Murphy or any other premium target. Ellis is a 6'4" guard who plays with tremendous energy and effort offensive end, and has developed into a competent three-point shooter who can space the floor. He's not the elite two-way wing that Murphy, and nobody is pretending otherwise, but he represents a realistic target who could improve our defense without requiring us to gut the roster, pay a massive premium. The proposed trade framework for Ellis that's been discussed is straightforward and managed. Dalton Knecht and a 2032 second-round pick going to Sacramento in exchange for Ellis and maybe a future second-rounder coming back. That's a price tag that doesn't destroy our depth, doesn't mortgage future valuable picks, and doesn't create salary complications for years. Knecht has shown some potential in limited minutes, but hasn't established himself as a reliable rotation regular yet. And a distant second-round pick is exactly the kind of asset you're willing to move for immediate help when you're in championship or bust mode with LeBron approaching the end of his career. Ellis brings a different profile than Murphy, and honestly, a significantly lesser one that we need to be realistic. He's undersized at 6'4" for the kind of elite wing matchups we'll face in the playoffs against the best team. He's not yet proven he can be a consistent rotation player on a championship caliber team over a full season. His offensive game is limited mostly to catch-and-shoot threes from the corner, and he doesn't have great ball handling ability or shot creation skills to punish closeout. But he's affordable within our constraints. He's actually available in trade discussions, and he addresses at least part of our offensive, even if he's not a complete solution. Ellis's defensive metrics are solid for his role. He's got quick hands that generate deflections and steals. He's willing to take charges and make winning play, and he plays with the kind of effort that coaches love. His on-off defensive numbers, Sacramento, show the team performs better defensively when he's on the court, which matters more than individual. He's not going to shut down Kevin Durant in a playoff series, but he can give you quality minutes against opposing benches and be a pest for second unit. The challenge with Ellis is that we're not the only team interested in his services, which could drive up the price or eliminate the possibility higher. The New York Knicks have reportedly been exploring a trade for him as well, which makes perfect sense given their recent four-game losing streak and their own depth concern at guard. The Knicks have assets to offer, they have their own draft include, and if they're willing to be aggressive and negotiate, they could absolutely outbid us service. That would leave the Lakers scrambling for other options as the deadline approach with fewer quality players available. This is the fundamental tension that every Lakers fan needs to understand as we head toward the trade deadline coming week. There's a massive, almost unbridgeable gap between the players we want to acquire and the players we can realistically acquire given our constraints. Trey Murphy would be genuinely transformative for this team in every way that mattered. He would solve multiple problems simultaneously on both ends. He would give us the elite wing defense desperately need against the best team, the floor spacing that makes our offense absolutely lethal, and two-way versatility that defines championship roster throughout NBA history. But Murphy might cost significantly more than we can afford to pay when you factor in the combination of what New Orleans would demand in trade assets, plus the luxury tax implication ownership has approved, plus the competition from other teams with better situations, might make it functionally impossible to get a deal done no matter how badly we want it. And that cold reality is forcing the Lakers to consider Tier 2 options like Ellis, who are more affordable and accessible, but also dramatically less impactful on winning basketball games. We've got extremely limited trade assets remaining after years of aggressive moves to stay competitive. We're competing against teams with significantly more flexibility, better draft pick situation, and younger players to offer. Drop your honest thoughts in the comments because Lakers Nation needs to have this conversation openly. Make sure you're subscribed to Lakers News Fan Report and hit that notification bell. The trade deadline approach, and you need to be here for every development, every potential move. Let's get banner 18, Lakers Nation.